Let's see. Do you guys hear me now? Can you hear this? Can you hear me now? Uh, hmm. Can you guys hear me? You hear me now? Um, okay. I'm gonna do one more thing. Let me see. Can you guys hear me now? Let me see. Can you guys hear me? Let me go over here to audio. I don't know. This microphone's not working. So we'll just. All right. You guys can hear me now, though. It's weird. I don't know. I'm not going to use the microphone. So I don't know. I have this microphone that I use every week, but it's not working. So um, I'm going to just use this is my computer microphone, so I'll figure it out next week. But how are you guys doing? Like, type how you're doing in the chat. Like, if y'all feel good, or if y'all are having a rough time, or if you're just kind of it's the end of summer. So yeah, for me it's the end of summer. It's still September. For me, the autumn does not begin until the equinox. For me, I farm, I plant food, I do environmental justice. So yeah, it sounds fine without it. Okay, all right. So I was trying to have a decent sound, but it's okay. I'll figure it out for next week. So I want to thank y'all for joining. Appreciate y'all joining me here. My name's Piper Carter. For those who haven't been here before, this show Mondays at 8 p.m. on Black Power Media is called Beyond Breaking Barriers, where we focus on women in hip hop. Yeah, so today is September the 11th. And something, I don't know. I talked to my husband. He was like, "You got to tell your September 11th story." But before I get into my September 11th story, I want to shout out that I'm a member of several different organizations, right? And I do a lot of different things. I'm a photographer. Um, I'm an artist. I'm a grandmother. That's my grandson, if you can hear. That's why I put my microphone, because he's running around banging upstairs with his mom, my baby. Well, she's not a baby. She's, what is she, 21, 22? So she's not a baby, but she's my baby. Um, yeah, so if you hear that's what you hear, but it's okay. And then what else do? I organize events. I do booking, I book artists, I do artist management, um, event production, concert, produce concerts. I used to work at this. So in Detroit, I'm in Detroit, we have a venue, and it used to be called Shane Park. It's now called the Aretha, and named after Aretha Franklin, of course. And it's one of our major concert venues. It's like 6,000. It's a 6,000 seat venue, outdoor venue on the water, really beautiful. So all the big concerts come there. Not all, but a lot of big concerts come there, for the summertime, whatever. So I used to work there. I used to be, I guess my official title was assistant stage manager, but I assisted my uncle, who is the stage manager and production manager. And so, like I said, big concerts and stuff would come there. And so, he was in charge of all production. So that's like lighting, sound, all the technical stuff, but then also just everything dealing with the artists, like just making sure that, everything, like their ride from the hotel to and from, like transportation, their food, all that stuff. And so because he was the boss, or is the boss, I was his assistant for about a decade. And so I actually had to like physically make sure all that stuff got done. So part of making sure that, that stuff got done was some of it I did myself, and then some of it I just make sure that others are like on their jobs, because we have a caterer there that makes all the food. We have like we work with the union, and so the union would do all the like, staging and lighting and sound and stuff like that. And we also have our own, folks that do stuff. And then you have all the dressing rooms, and so they have riders, and then all the stuff that goes inside their rider. They have what's called like a technical rider. They have the technical rider will have like everything they need for their lighting, their staging, their sound. And then they would have another rider which is going to have like their food, their like all their needs, like if they need flowers or liquor or other things I'm not going to mention online. So anyway, everything that they need in order to be able to do, their job. So part of my job was making sure that stuff got done. So as assistant stage manager, I'm by default also artist liaison. And so it's like getting them on and off the stage, making sure that everything that's supposed to be in the rider was like as it was written, like in the rider, because there could be complications, like, if stuff isn't exactly how they want. But anyway, so I have a lot of experience, I should say, like working in the industry, the industry. And so, yeah, before that, I lived in New York City for what I know, 20 years or something like that, and worked in the industry. And also did a lot of behind the scenes, because I was initially a photography assistant, and then I became a photographer. So very much the same things, except for, them getting their picture taken for magazines, ads, and things like that. So worked with a lot of celebrities, and I was in that world and doing all those things. And so when I moved to Detroit in 2008, I moved to take care of my mother, rest in peace. She just passed away 2021, but I moved here to take care of my mom. And that was where, I started doing things that I grew up doing, which was like I grew up in theater and dance and acting and all that stuff. So I grew up like in the industry, if you will, because both my parents were in the industry, right? Like my dad, rest in peace, he passed away last year. He was an actor, so he was in Hollywood. So I grew up spending my summers in LA, and my dad would uh, be doing Hollywood stuff. So I got a chance to meet a lot of child stars and children of people in Hollywood and things like that, because that was the world. And then like my mom was a dancer. She was in dance company. She was in Dunham company. She studied Dunham and performed Dunham style dance. Catherine Dunham is who I'm talking about. Is a style of modern dance. There is an entire lineage and line of modern dance. And so, yeah. Um, what does that say? Is it meant maestro? Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. And so, that's a little bit about me. I'll probably like throw things out there every now and then, but um, that's where a lot of my experience is coming from. So whether it's growing up, and then my dad was in both my parents were in theater because I grew up in the 70s and 80s. And so um yeah, like, just all the things in black theater, black Broadway. Broadway was a big thing in the 70s and 80s, and there's just a long history of doing this work. But any hootie rooty tootie, when I moved to Detroit, they didn't really have like my career, right? And so I actually didn't really care, to tell you the truth, either, because I was really concentrated on being my mother's caregiver, and that was like my new role. And I gave up the old me, and I lived fully into being my mother's caregiver, and that's where my world, was centered on for the longest. And because I had grown up in theater and all of that, I was able to transition into doing this work because that's what people in my family do and did. And so, yeah, that's how I was able to make a living, also owning the space and all that type of stuff. But anyway, I'm saying all that to say that this new me, as I've been evolving, right? I'm 51 years old. And so as I've been evolving, I have been through many iterations, right, of me. And so this iteration of me, I will say, is still committed to arts and culture, and that is very much a part of my life, music, all of that. And because also my family was in the Black arts movement, part of the Black arts movement, um, yeah, I'm very much committed to like using arts and culture for, I'll say, the betterment of our world. I guess a uh, catchphrase would be like, for social change. But I have a whole thing about that because I'm like, I don't know what's changed. But anyway, so I was just giving a little bit of that to kind of root you in the story I wanted to tell you today. So and also too, to tell you like a bit of a difference. So this weekend, so as such, I've been involved in the environmental justice movement at least 15 years. And I currently am a part of a lot of different organizations. One of the organizations that I'm a part of is called Climate Justice Alliance. And for Climate Justice Alliance, I'm one of the, I guess, founding members of our Black Caucus. Climate Justice Alliance is about, I feel like it's like 90, maybe about 90 organizations that are committed to climate and environmental justice from across the globe. And then, yeah, so we had our annual gathering this weekend in Indiana, in Indianapolis, Indiana, at a farm called Kepra Institute. So shouts out to Kepra Institute. Shouts out to Indiana and Indianapolis. If anyone is in Indiana or in Indianapolis, please visit Kepra Institute. It is a very inspirational and amazing place. They do youth development like no one I've ever seen. Those young people are incredible. And they shouts out to them. They just purchased a huge plot of land, which is where we had the gathering. And so for the last, I don't know, 5, 6 days, 7 days or so, um, we have been just celebrating ourselves, our work, and coming together to think about what we're going to do moving forward. Tonight, I am not in Indianapolis. I'm back in Detroit because I also work with another organization that's here, and I have to go to another retreat. Y'all will learn. I have 2 full-time jobs, 2 part-time jobs, and 2 businesses, and 2 podcasts. I guess I like 2. I was born on the 27th, so, I don't know. But, so for my next job, I have to go on retreat, so I had to come back so that I can drive, to that retreat because I had to drive from Indiana and get myself together. But any hooty rooty tooty. So this weekend, it was so beautiful. Got a chance to see some great performers. Got a chance to, um, I know she sugar booger. Got a chance to see, just like a lot of great people that I hadn't seen in a long time. And there's a lot of people who joined the organization as well. So there was a lot of new people. So growth is great and it's good growth. Because like I'm just excited because I remember just being like out there talking about environmental justice in the hood and people being like, I don't care. And the work that all of us have done to like make the connection between so that people see that when we're talking about environmental justice, just transition, climate justice, all of this, we as as I self-identify as a Black, Indigenous, cis hetero woman, that's from the hood, right? And so for me, I'm very excited to see so many people just care about the environment and see the connections to all the things that I'm going to say oppress us, that, you know, work against us, and just see how all of it's connected to the environment. All of it is connected to climate. It's all connected, whether it's police terrorism, and the connection to militarization and deforestation and the ways in which, uh, all of us just having overconsumption, capitalism, the patriarchy, the normalization of violence, intracommunal violence, um, just the it's so much. I mean, yeah, like hetero patriarchal normalcy, right, in our communities, and the suppression of folks who don't fit um within, those I'm gonna call them like colonized definitions of self. And so for me, all of that's environment, all that's environmental justice. But before I get too far, I want to say peace to everyone in the chat. So I see a lot of people who are Black Power Media, chat holder downers, like, Sugar Booger. What's up, Pamela Jones? Um, Imani, and yeah, David is over here. Yeah, it's a lot of y'all that are up in here. Y'all know I'm supposed to be wearing my glasses. Um, it's difficult to remember that I'm supposed to wear glasses. I know, y'all, I turned 51 in January. And so it's weird. Like I only remember that I need glasses when it's time to like look at something. But I'm gonna work on that. I'm gonna work on that. I don't know. I'm gonna work on that. So now I wanted to talk about that because I want to share like a lot of that because my husband was like, you gotta tell your September 11th story. So yeah, maybe I'll just get into it and then we'll have a conversation. So September 11th for me has always been, I'll say the last like, couple decades has been a very traumatic time. And I'll say that because I will say that I actually I guess you would call it survived September 11th, right? I guess all of us that survived, but I survived in a way where it was very real for me because I was there. And so I have a lot of trauma around it. Like it's interesting because I travel a lot. And so flying is like gets me a little nervous. And even driving, I'll be honest with you. Because I'm just one of those people. And I always get stopped. I always get stopped everywhere. I always get stopped. But that's a different story, which is related to September 11th. But yeah, I'm one of those people who, I travel. Like I said, I travel a lot, and it's like I don't know what it is. It's like I don't know what it is, but I always get stopped. So anyway, um, so if I go back to, uh, yeah, go if I go back to that day, right? So we're talking September 11th, 2001. So I at the time I was actually headed to work, and one of the gigs that I had uh was a little bit like, I want to call it like, uh it was like 14th Street. I had a gig at it was a studio that was on 14th Street. And before heading to the gig, I was gonna stop by the bank, right? So I was gonna go by the bank and then head to the gig. And my bank um, was inside of, the Twin Towers. And I'll say, fortunately, that morning I was running late, which also has me like, sometimes I don't feel bad about being late just for this reason. So I was running late, which for me was a bit unusual, because working in the industry, they have a saying. They say, if you're um on time, you're late. No, they say yeah, they say if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. If you're late, you're fired. And that's true. So working in the industry and working behind the scenes in the industry, um my job was really to like be there before everyone else. So if there was like a general call time of like 8 in the morning, then like my call time would probably have to be somewhere between like 7 or 7:30. And yeah, so this particular day I was running late. So and it's like I said, it was very rare that I was late. So it was really interesting. Right, tell that to the artist. Well, it's interesting. They let the artists be late, and the thing is, everyone behind the scenes better be there on time because the artists are late. And everything better be ready, because when the artists come there, it's time to move because they're usually late. So anyway, but so I was taking my, I'm taking my little time. It's interesting. Yeah, I was late, but I was taking my time. I'm not even gonna lie. So I'm like, I used to in New York, they have this station. It was called TV1. I've been here for a while in Detroit, so I'm not sure if they still have TV1. So let me know if they still have TV1 in New York. But they had TV1, and TV1, I would kind of keep it on TV1 a lot, because they just have like news all day. It's kind of like how I keep Black Power Media on now all day, because it's like there's all types of great information and news all day, and I would just keep it on TV1. So I had it on TV1 so I could listen to like what's going on for the day and get like, the immediate like news or whatever. And this is the interesting thing. So the news is on, right? And so I'm not really like watching. And okay, it still exists. So I wasn't really like watching. You ever like get ready and you're not really like watching, but it's just kind of on. So you kind of look. So you look for the ticker. So you kind of read the ticker. So you're like, oh, no. The weird thing was, I think I had showered. I was brushing my teeth, and I was walking around my living room, and I was like looking at the ticker, right? And so the ticker's going by, and so on the image that's on the screen, I see like the first tower, right? And I just see like they're showing, I guess it's the helicopter going around, so they're showing the smoke. And they're showing the building, and you see like just smoke coming out the building. So interestingly enough, what I remember is that ticker was going by, and there were a lot of different stories going on. But I heard, as I was like listening, not listening to the commentator because I'm getting dressed, they were talking about historically how, I guess it was maybe in the 20s or 30s, there had been a small plane that had hit the Empire State Building. So somewhere in my mind, I didn't really put it together that that was um the Twin Towers, because they were showing an image of the Twin Towers, but they were telling the commentator, she was talking about, she had read this um history of the small plane hitting the Empire State Building. And then they went into this whole commentary about, they went into the whole history, and they were just kind of talking about that. And I didn't, again, I didn't put it together because I don't know, maybe because you know that game or that personality test where they like tell you one thing but they show you something else. And so that kind of thing was going on. Plus it was super low. Plus I was doing something else. So I wasn't really paying attention. So somehow I'm thinking that the Empire State Building, that a plane, somehow I'm thinking that it's a live broadcast of a small plane hitting the Empire State Building. So the immediate thing I thought to myself is, man, I really hope that no one was in that building. And I hope that those people can get out. Because the first thing I'm thinking is, if a plane goes in a building, I hope that they could get either down the stairs as quickly as possible. I hope so. That's where my brain was like immediately. And I'm thinking this Empire State Building. Okay, boom. So I'm getting dressed. I'm getting dressed. Usually, even for like a feature story, they'll probably focus on the story. I'll say like 10 minutes, right? 10 minutes roughly for a story. It's like, I want to say it's like maybe like 15, 20 minutes. They're still talking about the story. So I'm like, what's going on with this, right? So I'm starting to think like, what's going on with this? So as I'm getting ready to go out the door, that's when I hear them say, oh, we have a live report from what's actually happening like on the ground. And when they say that, that's when they say that or that's when I hear them say, or remember hearing them say, that that is the World Trade Center, and that that's actually happening like right now at World Trade Center. And they were saying that it's like, you know, smoke was like, you know, covering the area, and that they were saying that people were starting to go back right to Brooklyn. I lived in Brooklyn at the time in Fort Greene, DeKalb Avenue, first stop in the D train. And I saw on the news, they said, oh, well, people are starting. So they showed an image of people walking across um, the bridge. And then they started saying how the bridge was crowded, and that like not to, you know, like not to go to the bridge right now because it was too crowded, but that everybody had to walk back. Anyway, it was like a lot of that going on. I was like, wow, I was like something crazy going on. So as soon as I as soon as I get outside, I smell the smoke, right? I told you I live in Brooklyn, so I smell the smoke. I'm like, man, is that the same smoke? You know? So I'm walking towards the train, right? And when I get inside the subway station, if y'all know anything about DeKalb Avenue, it's one of the connector stations because it's like the first stop in Brooklyn. So you get a lot of your other like trains from there. So it's pretty big, like underground station. So when I get there, it's like a lot of people, everybody's just kind of going about their day, you know, this kind of thing. And so I'm like, oh wow, I didn't hear any. Usually, like it's interesting in New York, like usually you could hear people talking about stuff when you're going. I didn't hear anyone talking about it. So I was like trying to see what's going on. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. Uh so I'm like, you know, wait for the train. And you know, typical New York City, train gets there, it's the morning, so at least for a couple hours in the morning, trains are packed. So the station's packed, the trains are packed, everybody's going in and out. So we get on the train, and the D train at that time, it went like underground, so you're in the underground station. All right, boom. So we're going a little bit, so we're going. So as soon as I get in the train, I'm like trying to like see, do people know what's happening? Blah 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 blah. So in my car, in my train car, I just yell out. I'm like, yo, does anybody know? Oh, okay. So remember, this is 2001. So people do have cell phones, but the functionality of the cell phone is very different than the functionality of a cell phone today. hmm So we don't really have video like that unless you had a Nokia, but then you had to be close distance. We didn't have Twitter. Um, the phone was basically like a phone, so you mostly called. You could text, but everything wasn't like right now. There's like instant video, instant, like everything's so instant. Then it was like you had to be by a cell tower, like it's all type of stuff like that. So anyway, just letting you know that because if some of you are younger, you might not, like know these type of things. So I get in the car. So first thing I do is say, hey, did anybody get a chance to catch up, right? Like on the story that's going on with the smoke, right? When I got in the car. Oh, let me see. Yeah, the functionality was to make calls and some text, but mostly uh right. Yeah, yeah. so so I go in the car. Oh, also too, if you don't know New York City culture, New York City culture, well, at least for me, New York City culture is more like um a little bit more approachable like that. Like in the sense, like if you get in a subway car, like you could like ask people a question or something about something and they'll answer you. You know what I'm saying? Like in Detroit, don't do that. Don't go up to people asking them questions. No, I shouldn't say that, but it's not really like culturally like a thing. Like in New York, you could have various experiences with lots of various experiences with strangers that you're not even in community with, and you become immediate community for like that couple minutes you're riding the train. It's an interesting thing. And so I got in the car and I was like, hey, did anybody see that story? Or did anybody catch up on what's going on with the smoke? Right. And people were like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. And then a couple people was like, yeah, I saw it. So everybody's kind of saying like what they heard. It's kind of like the chat. It's kind of like BPM chat. So everyone's like, I heard this, I heard that. Right, coming from Mississippi, right? Yeah, never would imagine. Um, so I'm like, did y'all hear this? Did y'all hear that? And folks are like, some of the folks are like, nah, I don't know nothing about it. And then some of the folks are like, I heard that. So now everyone's saying like whatever they heard. So now this is where like rumors and stuff get started. So people are saying all types of weird stuff. So oh, something I forgot to say. So before I left the house, that's what it was. That's what made me be like, what? Before I left the house, and the commentator was talking about what was going on the ground. One of the last things she said was, we're hearing reports that people, did she say on Wall Street? Yeah, she said, we're hearing reports from people on Wall Street that said they saw a wheel fall right out the sky, that they saw a wheel fall out the sky. I was like, whoa, what is that? So when I got on the train and I said that, right? So everybody's saying like weird stuff, like, and everybody's saying like what they heard. So I say, yeah, did y'all hear about the smoke? And they said like on Wall Street, like a wheel fell off the sky. So some of the people think I'm, forgive my French, the crazy lady. I know we're not supposed to use words like crazy, but yeah. So they think I'm like, yeah. And so some people are like, like, trying to turn and ignore me. Some people are like, Nah, that didn't happen. That's crazy. Nah, that's not true. Some couple people were like, yeah, I was watching the news story. I didn't hear that, but there is a lot of smoke and they say it's coming from the World Trade Center, right? So I say, is it at the World Trade Center or is it at the Empire State Building? And then people are like, no, it's at the World Trade Center. And then that's when the other guy starts talking about, no, they were talking about the history of the Empire State Building. I'm like, okay. So we're riding. So it's I don't remember how long it is, but I'm feeling like it's probably like 10 minutes maybe between uh like the actual station where we get in and like when we get to the end of the tunnel. So the D train, it comes out of the tunnel and it comes up onto the Manhattan Bridge, right? And when it comes on top of Manhattan Bridge, you're right next to the World Trade Center because you're on that side and you're like right there. When we come up out of the tunnel, we are on the Manhattan Bridge right at the World Trade Center. Man, we see just first of all, we're enveloped in like black smoke, right? If you know where the proximity of the um the World Trade Center to the Manhattan Bridge, to be like enveloped in black smoke is like is wild because it's not close, it's not far, but it's not like that close, right? So you're a little bit of ways, but you're like right there. All we saw, I'm telling you, when we came up, the conductor stops the train like right there. I mean, for a long time. When you're in something like time, like it's difficult to like tell you like we were here this long, that long. It was like time stopped, if that makes sense. Like time actually stopped. And it stopped. Time stopped because I think I was shocked. I was frightened. I was confused. And in the train, it was like imagine a full train car. So 50 people, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I just remember we all looked like, whoa. And all you saw was like, you saw the building and you just saw black smoke. It was so much black smoke. And all I just remember thinking was, how will the people get out? I just remember kept thinking, how will the people get out? So we're there, and the conductor comes on. So we're there, right? So we're watching it. So as we're watching it, so everybody's like screaming. Like some people are screaming, some people are like trying to calm people down. Like people are like, what the hell is going on? Like, so um the I'm trying to think of the order. Like so many thoughts are coming to my brain. This may not be the order, okay? But this is I'm gonna tell you what happened. But as it's coming to me, I may have the order incorrect. But I remember the conductor saying, um, "We are, stopping the train right now. New York City Transit is now closed. When we move from here and we enter in Manhattan, the whole subway will be shut down. New York City is shut down, and you will not be able to enter back to the train. And if you live in Brooklyn, please walk over to the Brooklyn Bridge and please walk back to Brooklyn. Please leave Manhattan immediately when we get to our destination." He said, New York City is under attack. If you have loved ones that are in the World Trade Center, please tell them to get out now. Oh, man. the mayhem that ensued in that car was all the way from, oh, so there was, first of all, everyone's panicking, right? So everyone's screaming and panicking. Everyone starts arguing and screaming at each other. And then some people are like, we're going to die. We're going to die. We're going to die right now. We're going to die here together. And then people were like arguing over like what God to pray to, right? So it was like the Jewish guy there, like a Hasid guy there. I mean, it was like the Muslim person was there. It was like somebody was doing Christianity. I mean, it was all types of people on the train. Like it was I think it was a Sikh. I mean, it was, imagine all types of people on the train, and everyone's like, no, we have to do it this way. We have to do it that way. We have to do it that way. And this one guy was like, hey, everybody, I don't give a fuck who you believe in. We all about to die. So whoever you believe in, you pray to them now. And everybody just like got quiet, right? And he was just like, he kind of did a good job like that. So I just kind of calmed it down a little bit. And then I remember this one, like somebody was like, I gotta call my daughter. I gotta call my father. So people start trying to call and you can't get through. So the phone's not working. So people can't call their people. So people start panicking because they're like, they gotta get out. They gotta get out. So then I just remember like, as we're talking about, as like everybody's like kind of talking about who they got to get in touch with and how, so everybody's trying to hand people their phones. So I remember I handed like 3-4 people my phone, and they was like, we're not getting through. Now mind you, the AT&T tower and a lot of the cell towers were right there at the World Trade Center. So the phones are not, we're like right there next to the phone tower, so the phones are not working, so people can't even call their people to tell them to like get out. And the train, mind you, the train made that announcement, but it's not moving, right? We're still just like sitting there watching this whole thing. So all we see is just smoke, smoke, smoke. So while the guy kind of calmed everyone down, everyone was just like, some people were doing their prayers and just making their peace with their maker, blah, blah. Others of us, like myself, were like, trying to figure out a plan to like get out the train. And I remember one of the dudes, it was, shouts out to hood dudes. It was a hood dude that was like, yo, we ain't got shit to worry about. He was like, cause I got a key. And he had one of those. So there's a key, I guess like a master key to like open up the train doors. And so he was like, fuck that shit. He was like, we ain't gotta worry about shit. I got a key. We were like, okay, we can open up the key, and then we start discussing like, okay, if we jump, like you might die on the way down, the impact, if the train falls this way, well, we should all go on that side. And then people started trying to see like who can be saved. Like it was like really an intense conversation. Some people were like, well, it's a lot of women in here. People were like, well, there's kids in here. We got to let them go first. Elders, people with disabilities. Folks like, well, I can do this. I got that. People start saying like, well, I got military training. So everybody starts assessing like, well, I was a nurse. So people started assessing like what skills we have and just like, how to do this. And then, everybody just like held hands, everybody like held hands. And we just held hands and we were like, okay, we're gonna like fight to figure out how to live together, like how to get out of here if we can get out of here. So as we're doing this, the conductor is giving like different pieces of information as we're still standing, like the train is not moving, the train is still standing right there. All right, boom. So we're going through all of this, and then all of a sudden we just felt like this wave of like hope, because the conductor comes on and he's like, okay, so he's giving us, I guess, the information that he's getting it like as he's getting it. So he's like, okay, they're gonna have, oh, so we start saying, so we start, we all come together, we hold hands, and we start putting our energy on praying for the people, right? So we start putting prayers and positive energy to the people that are in there. So we're just praying that they can get out, that they'll be safe. We start really just like visioning, like us being like us, sending that energy to them that they're going to make it, that they're going to be safe, that everything is going to be okay. Right. So the conductor comes on and says, they're going to send a rescue helicopter. So if you have people that are in the building, tell them to go to the roof so they can get rescued, right? So they say, tell the people, if you have their number, whatever, tell them to go to the roof because they're sending a rescue team. And if they're stuck and they can't get out from the bottom, then they can, go to the roof. So people are trying to contact their people and ask them to go to the roof. So we're like praying. We're like praying. And so the people make it to, we think, they make it to the roof, right? So we're getting reports that people made it to the roof. So people made it to the roof. So so we see the helicopters come. So we get really excited because we see the helicopters come, right? And so we're like cheering them on. We're like, yeah. So the helicopters are trying to like land and everything. We see that they're trying to land, and all of a sudden we just felt like this rush of heat energy. The heat energy came so fast, it knocked most of us to the other side of the car, right? Like we all got knocked back onto the car, and it was just like boom. And it was heat. It wasn't fire. It felt like fire. Like I thought it was fire, but it was heat. It was just heat. It wasn't fire. And we get knocked back there for a minute, and then the helicopters, like, they just leave. I'm thinking that they're gonna just like move out of the way and like go back and get the people. No, the helicopters just leave. The helicopters just leave and they fly away. And we're like looking at each other because we're waiting for the helicopters to come back. We're thinking like, okay, they're going to come back. They're going to come back. And then they're just gone. So we're like, okay, well, maybe they'll circle. Maybe they just need to get away from this and they'll come back. No, they left and left all those people at the top. And then that's when people started jumping. And people started jumping. And it was the most helpless feeling I've ever felt in my entire life. Like, levels of guilt that I've never felt before, of like not being able to help people and watching them have to make that tough decision if they're going to burn to death or they're going to jump. And then the train starts up and drives us into the station. So the train drives us to the first station in Manhattan. So, and then he says everyone must exit the so that we go down underground. He says everyone must exit the train. Everyone must exit the train. And so we exit the train. And as I come up out of the train, as far as my eye could see, I mean, literally everything around me was completely in ash, like this gray ash. Like it looked like snow, like one of those days when it's like full snow, but it was gray and it was ash. And everyone was covered in ash except for us because we had been down in the train, in the subway. And as I'm walking around, I mean, it is mayhem. I mean, the phone is not working. So I got this cell phone that's not working. I mean, like you can't get through to anybody. I'm trying to go to find like who to talk to. There are people running, like, I mean, every which way. People are just like running all around. So I'm looking around like, what to do? What do we do? And yeah, it was like you didn't know who to ask something to. You didn't know where to go. You just see people running, crying, screaming. Like cars are like stopped in the street. Like the entire city was shut down. So cars can't even like move. I mean, it was incredible. I just remember walking over, I saw one of those like beat cops like standing there, and I just remember people going up to him, asking him like which way, because like they're trying to direct people to go this way, right? They're trying to direct people to go this way, whatever. Nobody's listening. Some people listening, most of them nobody listening. So they're like, "Oh, go this way." So I remember people going up to him, asking him like, "Where do we go? What do we do?" And I dude just like this in uniform broke down, started crying. He's like, "I don't know. I don't fucking know what's going on." And he just started to cry like a newborn baby and just broke down right there and just sat down right on the curb and just, I mean, like sob cry. I was like, whoa. Then I remember they said to go back to Brooklyn. So I said, okay, so then start to walk that way to go towards the Brooklyn Bridge. Streets cut off. They were like, you can't come this way, you can't come this way. And we're like, yo, y'all said to go back to Brooklyn. They're like, nah, Brooklyn Bridge is closed. They're not letting nobody on. You can't go back to Brooklyn. I'm like, where can we go? They're like, I don't know. I'm like, okay, I live in Brooklyn. So I'm like, where can I go? So I'm walking, right? So I start walking the other way. So I see where most people are starting to walk towards uptown. So I'm like, well, let me start to go towards uptown. So I'm like, okay, so start to walk uptown. So I can't call anybody. I'm trying to call my mom. My mom lives in Detroit at the time, right? Trying to call her. I don't know at this point that this is a national or international story. I don't know any of that. I just know I need to call my mom because I'm scared. So can't get in touch with my mom. So I'm like, okay. I'm like, who is gonna be home right now? Cause like it was that type of rush hour type time. And I'm like, who's gonna be home right now that wasn't going to work and wasn't. I said, ding, ding, ding. My ex-boyfriend's auntie that lives in the projects in Spanish Harlem. I said, I'm gonna go up there because I know she's always home. I know she always has kids, food, everything. I said, that's where I'm going. So I end up walking from the bottom of Manhattan up to, what was she like? What was that? Like 116th Street. All right, boom. So this project's right there, 116th Street. So boom. So so I'm walking, right? So as I'm walking, you know, uh in New York, they have a lot, or at least at the time, they have a lot of these stores that have like the products like in the window, like like the TVs and stuff like that. So people a lot, like when big stuff happens, like a big game or whatever, people go to the window to like watch TV together. You know what I'm saying? Because you can see the ticker. So as I'm going like uptown, I see like, I'm catching up to the story because you like stop it there. It's a bunch of people in the windows, and it's interesting because not only did my phone not work and the other people on the what you call them not work on the train, their phones didn't work, but everywhere I was going, people's phones were not working. I was like, whoa. So we're walking. I'm like, okay, so stop it here. You get a little bit of the story. You keep going, you get a little bit more. You keep going, get a little bit more. So as I'm going, now I'm starting to see what happened. So now I'm seeing that I think I didn't understand. I was like, so I think it wasn't until I got a little bit further uptown that I understood that it was actually another plane had hit, right? Now I'm seeing that it's this international story. Now I'm seeing, so I'm like, well, I gotta call my mom because she's gonna be worried. So I'm like, I'm asking people to use their phone. Like, there's still payphones at the time, and the payphones aren't working. So I'm trying to use my phone. I can't, none of the payphones are working. Nobody else's phone is working. I'm like, oh my God. This happened what? It was like around 8:30 in the morning or 9 in the morning. Anyway, it was in the morning, maybe 8:30. Anyway, so all this stuff's going on. So I finally get to her house. When I get to her house, she was home. She was home. So she was home. And went there, and we she hadn't been watching the news. Like, she was watching her novelas. So she wasn't really paying attention. And I don't know if they was probably interrupting novelas, but she was cooking, taking care of kids. Like, she was not paying no attention. So I get there. I asked her, did she know what's going on? She was like, I saw a little something, you know what I'm saying, like on the news, but I don't really, what's going on? So I tell her, she's like, what? So she puts on, so we can see. So we start to watch, on the Telemundo, so she can see like what's going on. She's like, oh my God. So now she's trying to call everybody. Can't call anybody, you know what I'm saying? So she starts panicking. So all we could do is wait. So we're there waiting, like to see if the phone's going to ring or what we could do. So we're like, playing with the kids and things like that. So ended up like the whole day goes, and I want to say around, so the story of everything that happens. So around 6 p.m., the phones start working. And I finally called my mom. And my mom was so relieved that I called her. I could hear her crying. She was crying so hard through the phone. Y'all don't know, I'm an only child. And me and my mom are very close. Like I said, I moved here in 2008 to be her caregiver, and she passed away in 2021. But like, my mom was here, so she was saying like she just felt like, she said she felt me. She said, she's like, I felt that you were alive. She said, I was praying the whole day. She's like, I was under so much stress. She was like, my head hurts. She was like, I can't breathe. She was like, I mean, she was just going through it. But I was happy that she was relieved, and she was like, oh my gosh. She was like, I was just watching this. And she's like, I know. So I was happy that she was relieved. But I want to say, like, after that, that's when that experience, so everything that ensued after that, like all of the, like, we're always had propaganda, but the levels of propaganda, the ways in which they became escalated and the ways in which they used that incident to further corrode whatever uh access we did have. um from the militarized way that they shut down all the airports, because remember, you could, before then, you could take your people to the airport, you could go walk them all the way to the gate and hug them and kiss them before they got on the plane. Remember that? Because my family used to do that all the time, because I used to go back and forth, and they used to always come all the way up to the gate and give me a hug and kiss and stay with me and sit with me until I got on the plane. um from the like not being able to carry a bottle of water, from just even now, like TSA, like ever since then is just like making up stuff that you can't bring on the plane today, tomorrow. Take off your shoes, keep your shoes on, put your stuff in the bin, take your stuff out the bin. Uh put all your electronics in here. Oh, put your only your cell phone goes in here. Only your computer goes in here. Oh, put your bag in here. Oh no, you take your bag off. Just like all the things, all the like toiletries that they take from you, just like all the antics. And then like all the stories from that, right? Like, so from there, I just remember like a couple days later, was it Rumsfeld or one of those guys got on there, and no, it was Bush that got on there and was like, oh, no, who was it that said put the like they were saying that you need to like put the plastic sheeting over your put plastic sheeting over your windows. And then they started just putting all these, and then they started putting all this propaganda out there that like, and then it was weird like how all the black people just started doing weird stuff, like putting up American flags and just being so xenophobic. And then everyone started looking at Arab people all weird, and started attacking them, and just the violence that escalated from that nonsense, and just the whole way in which they pushed this Americana narrative. And all the black people that I realized were just like buying into it was like really weird to me. And then remember that whole freedom fries thing, and they were like, oh, we're not there French fries, they're freedom fries. And just the corrosion of like all of, I mean, I don't want to say democracy, because like, did we really have access in the first place? But I'll just say the ways in which we did have access, whatever little access we had, they started corroded even more. And then just, yeah, also too, like people started joining the military at like really weird, alarming rates, because they wanted to like, get down. And I mean, it was strange, strange, strange. Yeah, the roots of a lot of what we see right now. So what did you say? So Quaker anarchist says, my neighbor was in the team that got those phones working. She was on vacation, so she had a story, but nothing near Piper's love and support Piper. Oh, I mean, let me tell you something. There was a guy who was in a wheelchair, and he was on like, was it the 80 something floor, and this woman carried him in his chair down the 80 something flights of steps to the bottom. She said she put him on her shoulder like that and carried the wheelchair, and they went down like 80 something flights of steps when we got to the bottom. And I remember the reporter being like, why didn't you just get him? Why didn't you get the chair? She was like, because I knew when he got to the bottom, if he didn't have his chair, he needed his chair. I was like, wow. Oh, I mean, I did see, I mean, I did see a lot of people doing weird things, and then I started to hear stories from people who lived down there. So I knew a lot of so Wall Street, Tribeca, like down the bottom of New York City, a lot of rich people live down there, and a lot of people couldn't go back to their homes for months, probably like a year at least. A lot, maybe, yeah. I know people who can go home for about a year. And I heard stories from people who, when they got into their apartment, found like a foot or body part or like, yeah, things like that. And they never really, they never reported about those things. People's homes were, yeah, I guess kind of destroyed in a way because stuff had like gone into people's apartments and was there for a while. You know what I'm saying? Wait, let me go back here. You guys are saying a lot of stuff in the chat, and I don't want to lose it. What did Money say? I was relieved because my mom worked in City Hall. Yeah. Yeah, they steal stuff from you. I'm like, every day they change the rules. You still using the roll of plastic sheeting? I mean, I guess it's good for stuff. Freedom fries because France didn't want to go to Iraq. Right. Said I made a pilgrimage to Mecca in what is that, 97, and had a party of close to 100 family and friends who walked us to the gate with people. Right. And they were smoking on the flight and playing music. And walking around. Yeah, you know what? Back in the day, I remember being on planes going to Europe, like France, especially in Italy, and people smoking. I mean, being like, "Y'all smoking on the plane?" Um, Nobody say nothing back then. Uh, let me see what else. Um, yeah, I mean, it's the propaganda was just like, wow. So I lived in, it says, so you lived in Newark, would see the smoke, went straight to pick up the baby in daycare. Yeah. And the smoke and the air quality was like that for about a year, maybe even just a little bit longer, to be honest. Because think of all of the toxicity that was in that building. You know what I'm saying? Just like whether it was all the electricity and electrical systems and wiring to all of the desks, paper, ink, carpeting, windows, everything that the buildings are made of, the furnace. I mean, anything that was like in the building, including the people, you know. Yeah. So I remember watching Baby Bush get the news of the towers being hit, and he kept reading those kids a story. Yeah. Says, yeah, thank you for sharing your story. I was a first year teacher in Harlem on that day. Again, thank you for, yeah. Yeah. The one thing that, you know what, y'all remember in the Matrix, the first Matrix, when they had the Oracle and she was in the projects? That's what I thought of. I mean, I didn't think of it ahead of time. I thought of it like later. Like when I watched the Matrix, like I don't know, a couple of years after that, like I watched it again and I was like, huh, you know, like somehow that was the safest place that was the place I could think of, like who would be home, in this time. Yeah, where I could go and be safe. And so much gratitude, uh to my ex Titi, his Titi, his aunt, sorry. Um mm, what does this say? Um So you used to work for public health department. There's no emergency plans to evacuate disabled and elderly from buildings. Try to work on this, but their incompetence. Right. Um, yeah. Hope folks who experience this directly and indirectly get the help and needed therapy. Yeah, I mean, to this day, I'm not gonna lie, I'm still traumatized. Like I told y'all about my job, one of my jobs that I used to have. So the venue, the concert venue, is like right on the water, and they do for like 4th of July. They do this air show. I hate the air show. First of all, I don't mess with the military. I don't. X marks the spot for military, but they do this air show, I guess, to show like their might, the might of their machines and all this kind of thing. And they fly like some, they get these pilots, these special pilots. They fly like these special like World War II planes that they show, and they show like they go, okay, 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 okay. They just like they don't use um, they don't shoot, but they're the planes that do shoot, and they're the ones from World War II, and they show how they can like go low and do all these flips and things, and then there are two of them, and they do all this stuff together, and then they show the new ones and this and that, and they show the ones. Well, you saw the World War II joints, so look at what we got now, and then they show this next one. And it's like flies so low, and it's like meow, 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 and it's good, but I'm not even as loud. Like it's a rumbling and it's traumatizing. It's traumatizing. And they just show it. So it's already traumatizing, but having gone through September, I'm telling you, like, it is a very, I used to hate that. I used to always try to get off work for that day because I didn't want to see that. And it was like they just did it as spectacle, like for the concert. Right. Like people that go to hip hop concerts don't care about no air show. But anyway, um right. So Nwadi said that a lot of people, especially first responders, had health complications. Yeah. That's another thing. So I knew some people who were a part of the teams that went in. And to this day they still have um various, I'll say, varying degrees of health challenges, from breathing issues now in certain weather conditions to like cancer to like um had developed things like bronchitis and had developed a lot of different breathing issues. Like I think they still don't have a proper account of all the chemicals that folks had taken in being part of those teams, or even the people that lived down there. They did keep them from going home for about a year, but when people went home, it was wild. But yeah, my husband was like, you gotta share your September 11th story, because it's September 11th. And I just I think about all the ways in which they were able to create all of these laws, like, or acts or bills or ordinances or all these pieces of legislation, like the Patriot Act. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's a long list of legislation that's been put in place and that's been able to be put in place. And I think about how in all of that, the main thing that I think about is how the crisis was used to further steal, I hate to say our rights, because it's like, do we even have rights for real? But yeah, to further steal our so-called democracy or our access, right? Um, and it was all done with like legislation, and it set the groundwork. You know what I'm saying, for the Obama administration, right? The things that took place in the Obama administration have been, a lot of that stuff was started in under that, the stuff that was able to like become manifest during Obama administration was actually stuff that was seeded well many years ago. And there is a really great film. It's called Dark Legacy. If you watch that, that helps bridge a lot of linkages, which is interesting because it's, yeah, there's a lot there. But anyway, it says a ramping up of the overt police state, right? In a way, and it's interesting, right? So like, yeah, the overt police state, because in a way it's like we'd always been under the police state, to be honest, as Black people. I guess it was more of a way that we felt it. We're more a way in a way in which a lot of the ways in which they brought in legislation, like for instance, um, there had been, I guess, like a culture of like, okay, if you, um, you know, get stopped, do these things, right? Don't do that. Because, like, at the end of the day, you can say you have rights and all that kind of stuff all you want to, but at the end of the day, they could just hit you with one of these little situations because the classifications have changed. You know what I'm saying? So it's like through classifying, which is the stuff we're seeing with the Cop City, right? So for me, the stuff I see that's happening in the Cop City, it reminds me of September 11th. What I mean by that is like how they're criminalizing mutual aid and criminalizing collectivism. You know what I'm saying? It's like Black people and people of color, like that's the way we get down historically, culturally. Like we help each other. I don't know. I never heard the word, I'll be honest with you, I never heard that word mutual aid until COVID. But when I heard it, it was a white chick that told me, this chick Molly, she's one of our in Detroit, one of our, like, I'm gonna call her a white ally, radical leftist, anarchist. She called me like during COVID. She's like, "Hey Piper, do you need anything?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So she brought me some herbs and tonics and all type of stuff. And she came over, we started talking. She's like, "Have you ever heard of mutual aid?" And I was like, "Nah, I don't know what that is." So she tells me, I'm like, "Oh," I'm like, "That's what my grandma and them do. That's what we do." I don't know. I was like, "You got to formalize it or whatever." She was like, "We're gonna do some mutual aid." I was like, "Well, just do it. I don't understand why you got to call it mutual aid. Just do it. You're gonna help. I don't know what's, but that's the way I understood it. But then I saw an experience where different collectives and different people in the movement. I told you I do environmental justice, right? So I saw where different people in the movement were getting money, funding to do mutual aid. So they're coming up with mutual aid stuff, and it's like, oh snap, y'all got $1 million to like help the community. Now, mind you, it wasn't Black people. So, but they got it under the guise of like helping people of color. So I know like so one of the people that created the fund or whatever contacted me and this other elder, one of our Black elders, and was like, "Oh, we want to, you guys to help," because I speak Spanish fluently, and so they want to make sure that that it gets to people, this kind of thing. So I'm like, okay. So I was making sure that it got to Black people because y'all said the community, and these people live in the community. And it was interesting. We would have different meetings, and every time we would meet, it was just an interesting dynamic. Um, and maybe I want to bring on some more people. Another thing I want to talk about on this show, as well as a lot of our intracommunal stuff, like colorism is a big problem. Um, I'd say like identity politics is a big problem, and anti-blackness is a huge problem. You know what I'm saying? Even within our Black community, and even in our so-called communities of color. But with that, I saw how the mutual aid dollars were just like flowing. You know what I'm saying? And people are getting this money on the backs of Black people because they're using the statistics, right? And they're using the stories and the pictures and all that of like the community, community, community. But then when the money comes, it's like everybody getting money except the people that need the money. So people are getting paid to distribute the funds. People are getting paid to figure out the budget. People are getting paid to figure out how to manage the people that are figuring out the budget and distributing the funds. So all this money is coming for all this administrative stuff, or at least is being put towards administrative stuff to administer these funds. And then they were giving out little stipends and stuff to people, and giving them groceries, gas cards, and stuff that people need. So I don't want to say like they got nothing, but I guess what I'm saying is like I'm just looking at how these tragedies and things are being used um to like hijack the resources that are supposed to be for the community. And I also see how at the same exact time the legislation is being put in place to suppress the ways in which people can, I'll say, be and exist, right, in our bodies and in this world. And one of the things that I'm seeing from the ground is the ways in which our folks are buying into a lot of the narratives. Our folks are buying into um, the ways in which things are presented. And so I guess another big thing that I really love about Black Power media is the levels of political education that happen. And I appreciate that we get to come together to think about and struggle about some of these things. And if it's interesting because a lot of stuff I talk about, for me, everything is hip hop. So a lot of stuff I talk about, like all this is hip hop to me. If y'all don't know, it's 10 elements of hip hop. The 10th element is health and wellness. And the 5th element is the knowledge element, the culture. And that's the element that I do. And so when you come over here, you're going to get the 5th element of hip hop. And that's the knowledge element. You know what I'm saying? These conversations and things, because for me, women in hip hop is it centers the women who are hip hop, and we're people. You know what I'm saying? We're people who have lived experiences, and these experiences inform our realities and our actions and things. And so, I always keep saying this when people narrow the conversation to like, why aren't women, you know, keeping their clothes on, and why are they rapping these raps? That's a very narrow conversation about women in hip hop. I want us to like talk more about these ways in which our voices are being suppressed through legislation, the ways in which our bodies are being suppressed through legislation, and the ways in which we could change these narratives, because we are at war. And one aspect of the war is the propaganda, the narratives, the storytelling, and thus reclaiming and reshaping the stories, and building the hearts and minds of the people. So when did it become 10? So in 2016, there's a brother named Keith Tucker who actually went and did a ceremony. Man, I don't even want to say his name, but reality is reality, and we're dealt the history that we're dealt. So Africa Bambaataa at that time, this is right before everybody found out, or at least I won't say everybody. This is right before I found out, where before the lid got blown off. Maybe people knew this when I first found out. So there was a ceremony with Sarak. Y'all know the MC from Atlanta. Her name is Sarak. SA dash. Yeah, is it ROCK? And so she was also there. That's funny. Fifth Element without Chris Tucker. No, so this brother's name is Keith Tucker, and so yeah, he had a big concert. It was amazing, and so it was it in DC or New York? I think New York, and had a big show. It was 2016, and it became ROC, not K, right? ROC, yeah, SA dash ROC. Thanks. She was there. You can ask her, but they did a huge ceremony where because KRS One had, I know that's another. Ugh. So KRS One had the 9 elements of hip hop, right, and the temple of hip hop and all that. And Keith Tucker has a whole organization dedicated to the utilizing hip hop for to teach people how to eat healthy and become vegan and prepare healthy foods. And it's really cool. He does it where it's like he has connections to like big name artists, and they do a concert, and then they have an event where a community and people he brings the food, and he has a chef Aki. I don't know if y'all know Chef Aki, and she does a cooking demo where people learn how to prepare a healthy meal, and then yeah, people make the healthy meal, then they eat together and they talk about healthy eating, food, nutrition, health and wellness, and things like that. So there, it's it's the 10th element of hip hop. You can look it up, Keith Tucker. But so yeah, so 2016, that's how I found out about it, because he did a big ceremony where they actually created the 10th element of hip hop as health and wellness. So now the official 10th element of hip hop is health and wellness. Right. I think Kalanji is friends with Sarak. I want to get her on the platform to talk to her. So um so with that, oh my god, I lost my train of thought. I started reading the chat. But so with that, there are actually 10 elements of hip hop. You know what I'm saying? So just so people know, there are actually 10. And we could say there's possibly 30, but that would be breaking like every single piece of those down. So I think 10 is like a good place to end. Oh yeah, it says here on BPM, I was brought up on the myth of black buying power. I was grabbing that myth up before BP. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you got Jab talking about black buying power. I do want to do a segment on that. I'll get a I have the first version of the book. I need to see like what's the difference, because of what I want to do is have a conversation about the music industry and buying in the black buying power book. I think I want to do that. But yeah, so I'm glad that y'all came by uh to like kick it with me this evening. I know it wasn't necessarily about like rapping or dancing or making beats or anything like that. It's about September 11th, but I wanted to come on and talk about September 11th with y'all. And yeah, because I think it was a pivotal period, and I think a lot of what we are experiencing has come out of, um, yeah, the ways in which they duped us at that time. So I think I've been talking for like 90 minutes, but I'm gonna be back next week. I've got some different guests and stuff that'll be coming up. I feel like I want to let y'all know so y'all can tell people to know. Um, y'all know who Ty Phoenix is? Yeah, Ty Phoenix. Y'all know who Georgia Ann Muldrow is? So Georgia said yes, Ty said yes. I'm still reaching out to some different folks. I'm still trying to get Mama Soul. I'm like, Mama Soul, I need you on the show. Um, oh yeah, also too, who was here last week with Mahogany? That's what I wanted to talk about real quick before I go. Were y'all here with Mahogany last week? I was like, it was funny because like when I was asking her, so Mahogany, like Tony Blackman, I want to get Tony Blackman on here too. She said, yeah, we got to work out the date. But they work with the State Department, and the State Department has a department for like arts and culture where they hire artists, and the artists go perform in different countries and stuff, right? And they do exchanges with artists that are there, and some of the artists come here and do things, and then some of the artists go there, they perform, they do workshops, blah blah blah. And like they've been all over the world. I mean, all over the world. And it was so, I won't say it's funny, but it was kind of funny to me. But it's not funny, but it's so last week I asked Mahogany, I said, oh yeah, Mahogany, tell us about some of the places you've been. And she was like, oh yeah, it's so cool. And we do this work, we do that work. And she was talking about all the cool work she does. And then I said, well, where's some of the places you've been? Tell me about some of your work. And she said that she went to Israel. I was like, screech. I could just feel like the music stop. I was like, third rail, third rail. I was like, of all the places you went, you're gonna name Israel. But it is what it is. I was thinking like that's what we're talking about, like political education, right? Because all of our folks are in different places, and there are a lot of artists who yeah, like go perform in Israel and they don't know why um they shouldn't, you know. And even if they look and say, oh, I know there's some problematic stuff going on in Israel, they don't actually get it. Like they don't actually know why. um yeah. And it's interesting because over here on Black Power Media, I think a lot of us, I'm gonna make an assumption that a lot of us do a lot of work in the community, or we do a lot of, many of us over here are like, leftists, or, Black liberation, Black nationalists, or New African, or some version of, you know, uh, anarchist, communist, socialist, somewhere on the left. Yeah. And have a particular politic about Israel, Palestine, and that's a third rail, right? It's a no non-negotiable. And I think it's interesting when we talk about political education and we talk about growing our movements and we talk about our folks and we talk about bringing more folks in. One of the reasons I did not go 10 toes down on Mahogany after she mentioned Israel is because I don't want to attack her. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be like, what the fuck? I mean, my body and my heart said that. I was like, the yeah. But I didn't want to do that to her in that moment. I wanted to hear, what she had to say. I wanted her to like be able to say what she had to say. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't want her to feel attacked. And also too, I think if folks don't have a particular politic, for me personally, I kind of put folks on a scale. I'm like, okay, if folks don't have a particular politic, I don't have the expectation of them. And then I look at the person, I say, well, is on the scale of like, is this person intentionally like doing this, or do they not know? Now, there is personal responsibility, and it is important for people to, learn and study and learn and these kind of things. I guess also too, when I think about it, I'm like, yeah, I really wish that the collective we had the resources to fund, you know what I'm saying, like a proper tour for people so they don't have to. I'm not saying people have to go to Israel, you know, I'm not saying that. But I am saying that a lot of these artists that are doing the State Department work, I don't know how many of y'all are artists. I'm an artist. I know a lot of artists. And when you make your living as an artist, if you get to a point where you get a pretty good client, whether it's whatever it is, you a lot of artists will be like, yeah, this is a particular client of mine that's paying my bills. I have kids. I'm taking care of my family, right? That's not a justification. I guess I'm just wondering, like, yeah, some artists are able to be like, I'm not going there. I'm not going there. But that's making an assumption that those artists have something else, you know what I'm saying, to like take care of their family with. I feel like when we make demands on people, I think it's important that we also, this is me speaking, I feel that if I make a demand on people, that I should also have some way to support that person in the solution. And I feel like in this moment, I could say all day, like, you shouldn't go to Israel. You know, how you going to Israel doing that? You know, what about Palestine? Blah, blah, blah. Who's funding her going to Palestine? Where her plane ticket to go to Palestine gonna come from? Who's gonna, you know, uh pay for that? And that's not just about money, but I just mean I'm looking at the material reality of stuff, right? Who's gonna, like, if I tell you don't go to do your State Department gig, I want to tell you don't do your State Department gig. Like, that's what's in my heart. I want to tell you, like, man, you know, don't, you ain't got to do this, you ain't got to do that. But then that's just me telling you what you ain't got to do. I don't have something over here like you could do this. You know what I'm saying? And the this that I'm gonna tell you to do isn't like I actually have that thing. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you could go do it, which means you got to go try to figure out how to get it. And that's just not. Anyway, I just don't try to argue with people who don't identify in the way I identify. Like, now, if it was something where it was like a person is claiming a thing, then maybe I would go 10 toes down. But anyway, let me look in the chat because y'all been saying a lot of stuff and I haven't acknowledged any of it. And I did say I was gonna go. But yeah, so yeah, I know Rock was here before. I was just saying, like, I wanted to get her on this show to talk about, you know, some women in hip hop stuff that I want to talk with her about. Mm-hmm. You had a moment like that too? Okay. So what else? More than, I'm just trying to see what y'all are saying. I mean, this is a show that centers women in hip hop. So I don't know if I'd be bringing Smith and Wesson on, but Kalanji might bring them on. Yeah, so anyway, I just wanted to share that with y'all because I didn't attack her when she said that. And I didn't actually want to attack her because she's also my friend. And I didn't want to be like, you know, my heart was like, what the hell? You know what I'm saying? But then I was like, I didn't want to attack her like online and all that. I didn't bring her on here for that. You know, I brought her on here to talk about the other stuff that she does, you know what I'm saying? Which is great stuff, like works with kids and, you know, has some great music and does women's empowerment. And she also has some great events that she does around sexual assault awareness and supporting survivors and domestic violence awareness and supporting survivors and a lot of that work. So we got a chance to talk about that stuff too. But it was a little difficult to have that conversation. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I think it was good to like hear from her and hear her perspective. Yeah, and so yeah, so I say like I think we can continue to build. I think I would love if artists would just not go to Israel, but at the same time, like you know what I'm saying. It's not like she's a mainstream artist that's on like Universal and making all this money. So like she books herself. She, you know what I'm saying. It's all of that. There's no like intermediary. There's no like she's not in the matrix in that way. So yeah, but anyway, just wanted to share that with y'all. So we'll have some more great women in hip hop coming on here to have different conversations. And once again, some of the people I bring on here, they might have certain politics, you know what I'm saying? But for me, my biggest thing is just no misogyny. I want to bring people more to the left. I do. I want to bring people more to the left. But I think just for this part of the conversation is more centered on like, tackling the misogyny aspect. Um, and so thank you about struggling with folks and uh, bringing people over. So minded of Miles Mass Line, meeting people where they are as a part of departure. Right. So yeah, I want to meet people where they are. I feel like if you're not my open enemy, meaning like you're not on the right, you're not a white supremacist, you're not, actively trying to, promote capitalism. You know what I'm saying? um, then you're not my, what I'm saying, not my open enemy. You know what I mean? And I think where our folks have different politics, that's where our folks have different politics. So I'm really hoping um like a platform like Black Power Media, I think is a great platform to just help bring people closer. Um and yeah, I mean, it might be fun to watch people do tea. I've seen Jared go hard in the paint with people, and that's cool. But I mean, if there's a person that I would do that with, they probably won't be a guest like on my show. Like I might be on a panel with them or something. But I'm trying to bring people on the show that are at least aligned with most of my values. So yeah, I guess I'm also kind of like quasi apologizing to people if you were triggered or traumatized by her mentioning that she went to go perform in Israel and that she enjoyed it. And I know that's not funny, but it was kind of funny to me. But it's not funny, but yeah. So yeah. But I appreciate y'all, and I hope y'all join me next week. Got a lot of different great guests and stuff coming up. And if y'all have topics that y'all want me to cover, like let me know about those topics too. um I was trying to think where y'all could basically, if y'all want it, so definitely like, share, subscribe, and share all of the Black Power Media channels. If you look in the description, you'll see my channels in there too. So hit me up if there's stuff that y'all want me to like, talk about, or guests that y'all feel should come on here. But know that we're gonna vet the guests, because we definitely want to make sure that we're as aligned as possible with our values here on the platform. And my intention is not to bring people on here to just be arguing with them and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't want to just bring people on here and then we just, I know it's probably entertaining, but I also want to promote more of our people who actually have great music, have great messages. Like I want to do more promotion of that so we can, have uh more access, you know what I mean, to one another's yeah, maybe like playlists and stuff like that. So all right, y'all. That's funny. We have enough arguing on BPM. And don't get me wrong, like if I was on a panel and I felt like that person was like out of pocket, then you know what I'm saying? But when I bring guests on, I'm just trying to, share. So peace, everybody. Appreciate y'all. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see y'all next week. All right. Peace.